Alright, so what I'm working on is my X3 Maverick. And what I did here is I actually made my own downpipe. Cut the catalytic off this point and that point. Got me a 2.5-inch piece from AutoZone of exhaust tubing and cut it to the exact same size that I cut the catalytic off. Mounted it in place. Make sure this was in the right orientation for the original muffler, and just did a quick bead on each end. Had to pause for a bit. So wall there, beat around, and it worked. Running the Stage 5X from Evo on the X3. Runs pretty strong, runs pretty good. Took everything off for now. I was running the stock muffler because in all instances, running straight pipe through the mountains or trails just gets pretty loud after a while. And my daughter just made me a sandwich. Don't care how old you are, these are always the best. Took everything off. Should make mounting and fabricating my own setup pretty quick. What I ended up doing is buying from eBay some 2.5-inch pre-mandrel bent exhaust tubing. Comes with 2 of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use these bends, probably cut somewhere in this area, elongate it to where I need it, use the other piece to turn it the other direction where I need, and kind of go from there. This video doesn't have a lot of stops and starts, so excuse all that, but I marked exactly where some clearance is with the stock exhaust shielding. So I'm going to cut it here. I'm actually going to use some V-band clamps. That I bought as well. Now what I'm going to end up doing is once I cut, I'm going to attach one end of the V-band clamp here and the other to this other side. I'm also going to do that to this other piece once I cut it off, in case I want to go back to stock muffler for when I go onto my longer, 3-4 hour drives where you don't want to end up deaf by the end of your ride. These Mavericks with straight pipes are actually pretty loud, and after a while you can't hear your music, you can't talk to your passenger. So I'm trying to make this kind of convenient. Do a lot of drag racing with my unit, but at the same time I also do a lot of trail riding, so kind of want to do the best of both worlds. And for me, swapping the muffler in and out doesn't take very long at all, maybe 5 minutes tops. So to be able to just cut here, add a V-band, I can always revert back to the stock muffler without having to have to mess with this anymore. I wanted to go with the Evo Shocker, but it's a little out of the price range right now. So we're going to do what we got to do. So now that that's cut off and this piece is cut off, I'm gonna weld the V-band one and a half to this, the other half to that, and yes, I do have two sets of these. So alright, so what I did here is the cut, even though I marked it wasn't perfectly straight, but close enough. I leveled this in the vise in both directions, XY. Ended up putting my V-band in place, kind of catty corner, and then using my level to make sure it was level in both directions. And it's pretty straight. I could probably adjust it just a tad. Alright, so what I did here is once I got nice and level, and I'm doing 3 tacks on kind of a triangle to make sure everything was level. It is. Now that it's a couple spot welds in place, now I can actually go around and weld the whole thing. Debating if I should do MIG weld or if I maybe should just TIG weld the whole thing. I'm not too much for appearance. I'm something that I'm not really going to be looking at. So TIG is a lot nicer, cleaner, but it does take a lot longer. MIG is probably twice as fast, if not more, and can look just as nice as long as everything runs smooth. So the next part of this video, you're going to see which one I decide to go with. Alright, so what I ended up doing is I just went ahead and MIG welded it. Now, give and take, kind of in a hurry because I do have work in the morning. I just went and did a quick weld job all the way around. Not the prettiest, but nonetheless, it is a good weld. It is sealed, and it will do its purpose. So right now I'm just giving it a quick little air cool off because I do have to mount it back in the car so I can fab up my next measurements and cuts that are going to go along so I can get it the correct radius. Alright, so went ahead and finished up the weld, put my downpipe back in place. All I did was snug it up just a little bit so I can kind of maneuver it up and down. Put the stock exhaust back in place, and I went ahead and somewhat did an alignment to where in the future this with the new V-band is going to fall right in place with where it's supposed to go. Well, for now, since we're not doing that, it's all come back off. But the reason I did that was to align my downpipe at the angle that I need for the future, so when I do decide to put my stock muffler back on, I don't have to move the downpipe angle or mess with that V-band flange on that one, because it is kind of tricky to get off sometimes. It will seal tight and will not want to let go. It takes a couple screwdrivers and a hammer to break it apart. So I don't want to do that no more. So in the future, that's why we're going with the V-band. So you just have to break it here instead of taking it over from over there, way down that way, over there somewhere. Anyways, so I'm gonna take everything apart. That's my muffler, and start working on my other piece, which I already cut. And it's gonna go in somewhat in there. Alright, so this is the other end of the V-band. Now, when they mandrel bent this one, they give it a little bit too much of an angle. I don't know if you can tell, but it actually kind of comes straight across, up, and it actually comes into my right a little bit. So when I was fitting everything up, I had to actually give it quite a bit of an angle to make sure that I wasn't going to end up straight coming across the back end of this. Alright, now what I did next is I was actually gonna get this pretty level and come straight out, but I decided that I wanted to keep my rear bumper, almost just because of that little guy right there. So I'm gonna have it come out the middle, kind of like the stock exhaust. Plus, when you got the little guy and you got the launch control and it starts shooting fireballs out of here, kind of just matches. Gotta keep it. So what I'm doing is like put this where I was gonna go, kind of looked at where we're gonna come out of, and it's about right there. Looks to be all straight. Now do my next cut, get my next 90, weld, fit it up, tack it up, and see if we can get my last piece to come out, and it should be almost wrapped up. So after modifying the cuts, getting some measurements, a couple of spot welds to hold in place of exactly the angles I need. I just gotta finish welding it up. And then last will be a support bracket to go somewhere around this area. Alright, so looks like all my fabrication for the most part I believe is done. Got my my V-band flange, tightened it up, came out, did a 90, angled down a bit, hit with some welds. Now these welds ain't the prettiest right now, but you know what? It's not something someone's gonna be looking at. They're pretty straight. They're good welds as far as structure wise. And it's centered. Get a pretty centered. As long as you see right there, pretty much middle of the whole thing, came out centered. So now in the future, if I just want to go back to stock nice quiet muffler for the long trail rides, take that V-band off, put my stock muffler back on, and V-band the muffler to the catless downpipe that I fabbed up a few months back. So now just gotta connect all my O2 sensors back up. I got the factory one, plus I have a wideband hooked up as well, just to monitor. I think everything came out pretty good. And at a fraction of the price. I guess if you look at it from this angle, it looks a little crooked, but I'm not too worried. OCD's kicking in a little bit, but I think we'll be all right. All right, all done. Exhaust sensors are back in. Everything's tight. I still gotta build one more bracket to hold the weight from here to here. I think I'm gonna end up just drilling a hole here, maybe two, and drill and tap. Then metal bracket to come up here, and I'll probably just weld it right here, and then 2 bolts to go here to make future uninstall pretty easy. Now let's see it start up and run. Alright, so next day, gonna get more stuff accomplished. I put all the stock heat shield back in place just because I want to try and reduce as much heat on top of the bed cap as possible. Everything's back in place. Everything's pretty smooth. I made this bracket. Some 1/4 bolts, 2 of them, drilled and tapped. Got the exact angle I wanted. Did a couple tack welds in place on the unit. Did one here and then I did one here. That way I'd get the right angle. And then I was able to take everything off, put it on the bench, and weld the rest of it up. Ended up doing just MIG welding because it's just faster, and I was kind of in a hurry to try and finish last night. If I would have known I was going to day 2, I would have done the TIG, but it is what it is and it works. Everything looks like it's pretty centered. Other than that, I'll give it a quick start, see how it sounds. Sounds nice, sounds pretty. She's angry. She's definitely angry.